It is the greatest cover-up of all time. The name of the Creator, YaHuWaH, has been removed from His own scriptures. His name has been replaced by religious organizations with titles such as Lord and God, which prove to be pagan titles for pagan deities. The peoples of the world have been deprived of the great saving name, the name above all names, expressed over and over again throughout the Hebrew Scriptures, appearing nearly 7,000 times in the Old Testament alone. The name of YaHuWaH is coming forth in these last days, and we will preach it to the four corners of the earth and fulfill the commission set forth in the book of Deuteronomy 32, and we shall publish the name of YaHuWaH to the whole world.
Shalom, friends and family, brothers and sisters, strangers, everyone all over the world. We thank you for tuning in, and I ask you to please turn in your scriptures to YaHuWaH chapter 65. This is the Messenger of the Name Ministries, and in this ministry we lift up the name of YaHuWaH and Yahushua, and we proclaim it to the entire earth. It's very important these last days to understand who we are worshiping and who our Creator is and what His name means and what it points out to us in society. In verse 1 of chapter 65 it says, I have let myself be inquired of, not by those who asked. I was found not by those who sought me. I said, here I am to a nation not calling on my name. And this was talking about the Hebrew people. The Hebrew people had forgotten the name of YaHuWaH, that they began to actually stone those who would call on the name of YaHuWaH as a death penalty. And YaHuWaH was saying, here I am, constantly. But he says in the very first part, he says, I have let myself be inquired of, not by those who asked, implying that there was another people who would inquire of YaHuWaH. In verse 2 it says, I have held out my hands all day long to a stubborn people who walk in a way that is not good, after their own thoughts. Not after YaHuWaH's thoughts, but they had made their own thoughts. They had made their own image, their own creator. If you look at the book of Exodus, you see that when YaHuWaH brought his people out of Mitzrayim or Egypt with a mighty right hand, they created a golden calf, an image. And they said, this Elohim brought us out of the land of Mitzrayim. So they knew who YaHuWaH was, but they created an image, and they said, this is YaHuWaH, after their own thoughts, after their own ways of thinking. Verse 3 says, the people who provoke me continually to my face, who slaughter in gardens, and burn incense on altars of brick. Keep that in mind, the altars of brick and burning incense. Who sit among the graves and spend the night in secret places, who eat flesh of pigs. It's very important for you Christian viewers to understand what the book of YaHuWaH says about eating the swine flesh. And it says this, it says they eat the flesh of pigs, and the broth of unclean meat is in their pots. Who say, keep to yourself, do not come near me, for I am set apart to you. These are smoke in my nostrils, a fire that burns all day. YaHuWaH is revealing to us right now what his people were doing in ancient times. When you search the scriptures, you will begin to see certain mighty ones throughout scripture that the people of Yisrael could not shake. They just, for some reason, they continuously fell into the worship of these different mighty ones. Remember the burning of incense. If you look at Jeremiah 44 verse 18, it says, but since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, keep that in mind, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things and have consumed by the sword and by famine. So they were burning incense to the Queen of Heaven. We see modern Christian organizations today have labeled the person that they call Mary, whose name is Miriam, the Queen of Heaven. This is done in the Catholic organization. But more so, what we need to understand is this particular deity, the Queen of Heaven, goes by two other names in the scriptures. One is Asherah, the other is Ashtaroth. And we find the name Ashtaroth in perfect Hebrew 11 times in the worst of the English translations of the scriptures. We We also see names like Molech. Molech is also perfect Hebrew. Molech appears 8 times, and Molech was this large, fat prosperity god who had this huge idol that the Moabites had created, and they would literally put fire into the bottom of this deity, and he would turn a bright red, and he had a Phrygian cap like you see the man that they call Santa Claus wears today, and it was actually passed on to Tammuz, and on and on and on. And then we see another character named Chemosh, and this deity's name is also in perfect Hebrew, appears 8 times. And we see Satan. Satan's perfect Hebrew. If you actually look it up in the Hebrew Strong's Concordance of number 7854, it appears 56 times alone in the Old Testament, not even in the New Testament. And if you look at the pronunciation guide in the Strong's Concordance, it's pronounced Satan. Now a lot of Hebrew people also say Shatan, but in the Strong's Concordance it literally says Satan, okay? And we say that, perfect Hebrew, over and over and over. And the scriptures tell us we are not to even mention the names of these deities, and the only reason that I am is to bring enlightenment to you so that you understand when you read the verses in the scriptures that you are literally invoking their names, but the preachers and the teachers and the various peoples of the denominations of the world will tell you we do not say the name of YaHuWaH because it is Hebrew. Do you see the hypocrisy and what the world is saying to us when we call on Satan by name, Chemosh by name? And all these characters, Chemosh, Ashtaroth, all these people echo from the ancient man Nimrod, who the scripture says was a mighty hunter before YaHuWaH, which is a lie in the translation, because it literally says in the translation he was a mighty hunter against YaHuWaH. So he wasn't a hunter for YaHuWaH, and for some odd reason it seems that the scriptures, that these men in the high places translated for us, take sides with Nimrod. They allow his name to be in there. Again, Nimrod's name is perfect Hebrew, and it appears in the scriptures. So one would have to question, why did the Father's name get blotted out? It's not in there. The Son, Yahushua, his name's not in the book, unless you get a scriptures version, or if you get a Hebrew version. But if in your modern English versions, your King James, your New King James, your NIV, you will never see this name in Hebrew. And then we see the character Baal. Now, Baal is this name that means simply Lord, Master. It's really strange because it's a nameless deity. It really doesn't mean anything. Anyone can be a Baal. Some rabbis today even go by the title Baal. So it's a very strange thing. We see this is directly connected to Nimrod, and most Bible commentaries will tell you this also. So we see that Nimrod and Molech and all these guys are basically the same deity. And what would happen was, to infiltrate society, they would dumb his name down so that he could be a universal deity, accepted by all the peoples, with no name, because names offend people. But if you take away a name and you say Lord, or Baal, which is what Lord means, if you look it up in the Strong's Concordance, Baal means Lord. So if you take away that and you just begin to put different customs and different things in the mix, people over time will forget who they were supposed to be worshiping in the first place, and soon you've created this whole new deity. And we know in the book of Jeremiah it says that the people, this is what it says. In Jeremiah 23, verse 26, it says, "How long shall this be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies? Yea, there are prophets of the deceit of their own heart, which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers have forgotten my name through Baal," which means Lord. So we see that Yahuwah's name had been covered up by another Hebrew word. This Hebrew word appears in the scriptures, and it was covered up by Baal. It says, "The prophet that hath a dream, let him tell a dream. And he that hath my word, let him speak my word faithfully. What is the chaff to the wheat? What are the tares to the wheat? Saith YaHuWaH." YaHuWaH is basically saying, when you read the parable of Yahushua, when he says that there were a certain man, he had good seed, and he planted the seed in his field. And he says that the seed brought forth, and then his servant saw that there were tares growing up among the wheat. And Yahushua explains that the tares are the son of the wicked one, and that the wheat are his children, and the wheat is gathered after the tares, and the tares, the chaff, is burned with fire. And this is what YaHuWaH likens those to who call him Baal or Lord. So you may want to re-examine your thoughts on what you call the Most High, because we do not have the right to call him anything that we so desire. Adam was given the right to name animals, not the Most High. Okay? In the book of Bereshith,